This is an address to His Excellency, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, retired General Muhammadu Buhari. I am Frederick Odorige from Abraka, Delta State, Nigeria. I am proudly Nigerian. I am currently the President of the Association of Nigerians in Hungary. I have just become the Chief Coordinator of the European Coalition for Security and Democracy in Nigeria, ECSBN. We already have Nigerian representatives in 23 European countries, while we are incorporating more. Whatever I'm about to say now is exclusive of the Nigerian Association of Hungary. I'm not speaking for the Association of Nigerians in Hungary. My statements are personal, my opinions are personal, but they equally reflect the opinions of the European Coalition for Security and Democracy in Nigeria. As we gear up for election, the campaigns are hot in Nigeria now, they are heating up, but I can assure you that the pattern of campaign you will see and hear from this part of the world will be unprecedented in the history of Nigeria. We cannot be afraid to speak in Nigeria and be afraid to speak about Nigeria outside Nigeria. Nigeria is bigger than the broom. It is bigger than the umbrella, the cock, light bulbs, handshake, clock, pineapple, star, and other party logos that seem to mock the very essence of our democratic values. What is happening in Nigeria today is less than barbaric and absolutely unacceptable in every standard. Think about this, Mr. President. When there were terrorist attacks in France, Belgium, the UK, and other countries, you sent your condolences. Since the recent reoccurring massacres in Nigeria, how many presidents or prime ministers of other countries have sent you condolence messages? The answer is probably no. Why? Because they have realized that killing has become part of our normal lifestyle in Nigeria. Mr. President, in April 2011, you shed tears at Nigeria when you desired to be president. You shed tears on national television. You wept about the insecurity, corruption, and poor welfare of Nigerians. Those tears looked convincing then. Your failed attempts, persistence, and your eventual winning of the presidency in your first attempt showed your desire to change Nigeria. Your coup, which brought you into office in 1983, has promised a better Nigeria before your government was toppled. At a media address in June 2012, you explained the reasons why you shed tears in 2011. And I quote you, "I wept because having seen how rich this country is and how God really blessed Nigeria, the whole world is almost envious of Nigeria," unquote. Yes, but today, families are in tears, mourning with your government in power. Mr. President, you are in office. You are not in power. You are in office now, but actions are showing that you are not in power. Mr. President, I was a card-carrying member of PDP. Today, I do not belong to any political party. I could no longer find my PDP card when I saw how the previous government was running the country. I could not see my PDP card anymore. They were running the country at the detriment of Nigerians. Like many Nigerians, Mr. President, I conscientiously campaigned for you during your 2015 election with the hope that you will bring the needed change to our country. My Facebook page, Muhammadu Buhari, speaks for itself. Your antecedents and your desperate wish for positive change was what drove that conviction. I put Nigeria above all political, ethnic, religious considerations. Today, I must admit that I am confused and dismayed at what is now happening in our country, Nigeria. The scary security situation and hunger in Nigeria today is inexplicable. Mr. President, I have refused to judge your performance till now, but some shocking situations in Nigeria today under your purview calls for grave concern. I wish to base my statements here today on the provisions of Chapter 2, Section 14, subsection 2B of the Nigerian Constitution, which reads, I quote, "The security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government," unquote. I also believe that it is your awareness of this provision in the Constitution that made you to shed tears on national TV before you became president. That we have reached a point under your administration where Fulani notoriously kill our people. Fulani terrorists, kindly referred to as Fulani herdsmen, now slaughter Nigerians like cows, rape women, burn farmlands, kidnap and rob commuters on our highways with little or no government concern. It's a sad misnomer. Very difficult to imagine. Your slow response to critical yearnings of our people makes the situation even more troublesome. How did Nigeria slide to this mud? How? How did Nigeria slide to this mud? Mr. President, you may be aware that a Nigerian slaughtered an Italian girl in Italy recently. The simple reason is because he imbibed the Fulani herdsmen mentality in Nigeria, where they think they can slaughter anybody in their farmlands or in their country. That is what happened. Mr. President, only the introduction of a state police can address the security situation in Nigeria at this point. Governors do not need to cry to Abuja before security agencies are swiftly and effectively deployed to crisis zones. States do not need to bury their dead weeks and months before you send and introduce Operation Cat or Rat Race. Your recent endorsement for a second term by the APC governors and their aides at a period when the blood that soaked the earth of Benue State and other places is still fresh shows how insensitive and self-seeking their actions are. If they kill everybody in Nigeria, who will you rule? Remember that as Nigerians are killing Nigerians in Nigeria, it is the same way that Nigerians are being killed in South Africa, India, Libya, and other places. They sell your citizens as slaves in Libya, while organ hunters kill and trade in their body parts, all because of their desperate attempts to escape from Nigeria. Others have drowned at the Mediterranean Sea. Mr. President, can we continue like this? You are the Grand Commander of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Commander of the Armed Forces with powers over land, sea, and air within the territorial space of Nigeria, when the leadership of our country appear to be silent about the slaughtering of Nigerians. On what ground can our lives be secured in foreign countries? Human head in Nigeria is now selling lower than cow heads in the dens of ritualists. Mr. President, did you shed tears in vain? Nigerians have reminded you that the way you visited your son at the hospital should be the same way you ought to have visited states where Nigerians were slaughtered. Remember how Nigerians trooped to London when you were ill. God has been fighting for Nigeria as a country. Remember how God plucked Abacha away when he became a demigod, when rumor of your presumed death in London almost appeared true, Have you not realized that God preserved you for a second chance? You called the bereaved people of Benue State to visit you in Abuja. Just the way you called one of the state governors also to visit you after massacring their state. Mr. President. And you Benue people that travel to Abuja to be consoled, you are a strange people. You are a strange people. Were you really among those that were truly bereaved? Or you just went to Abuja to collect envelopes? You might probably have gone to Abuja to console Mr. President because your people were slaughtered. The Prime Minister of the UK, where you were hospitalized, we put off all engagements in order to visit the scenes of such incidences or address the nation immediately. You never did, Mr. President. You even visited neighboring Nasarawa State, but could not visit Benue State, where the governor is in the same political party with you. It is a sad irony that even governors of opposition political parties visited the people of Benue State to commiserate with them and supported them in several ways. When a police officer recently pushed an indigene of Edo State to his death recently, the Edo State governor, Governor Baseki, personally visited the family of the deceased. He's an APC governor. That is what I call leadership. How can we attract investors in an environment with such huge security challenges? When herdsmen killed my people in Abraka, Nigeria, Delta State of Nigeria, the legislator represented the local government area personally went to the presidency to lodge complaint. The vice president of Nigeria sent a delegation to assess the situation. Did anything come out of it? Why do we need to set up committees to address or investigate cases of various brutal murder when you have security agencies that could swiftly move into action? We must be proactive. We must be proactive. Have you heard of the US, UK, or France setting up committees to have meetings over terrorist actions? The criminals strike today, and within 24 hours, their identities are revealed, and their hideouts are busted, and they are arrested. You cannot fight security without capturing the biometric data of Nigerians on their national identity cards or installing surveillance cameras in public places. It should be compulsory that all private businesses of a certain magnitude of public patronage should install surveillance cameras within their business premises. If you are prepared to supply electricity 24/7, that is how to fight security. Sadly, the victims of herdsmen attack do not receive any form of compensation from the government, just as succor to cushion their loss. It is ridiculous that Nigerians are now resorting to prayers because of the so-called herdsmen. This is not the time for prayers. It is a time for you, Mr. President, to do your job as a person who shed tears the way the country was being operated before you came into power. This is not a time to begin to ask for God's mercy. This is not a problem that needs God's attention. I repeat, the problem of Nigeria does not need God's attention now. God has blessed us as a people, and it is our duty to manage and harness our God-given resources. Yes, we must manage ourselves. Any problem caused by man can be solved by man. I repeat, any problem caused by man can be solved by man. Now that the situation has worsened under your government, Mr. President, where are your tears now? Where is the federal character if 14 of the 17 heads of security agencies are from northern Nigeria? You might have done this to articulate or guarantee your position, but how has it secured the vast majority of Nigerians? Mr. President, Boko Haram has infiltrated every part of the country in the name of herdsmen, and we are just slowing down. Whoever says that the Fulani terrorists are foreigners is only conjuring lame excuses. Any country that cannot secure her borders has lost her sovereignty. Nigeria does not rank among the first 20 beef and milk producers in the world. Yet we do not hear about killing by herdsmen in their countries. How much has the Ministry of Agriculture learned from the best grazing practices of these countries? Nigeria cannot continue like this. Mr. President, Nigeria is currently sitting on a keg of gunpowder that is waiting to explode. Your sycophants have started campaigning for your re-election. Now your attention will be divided. If you do not act swiftly to address the security issues when the campaigns have not even started, how can you address the issue when campaigns heat up? Your wife has been positively outspoken in your government. Since your advisors seem to be afraid to advise you, then you must listen to the well-meaning political statements of your wife, which directly reflects the yearnings of Nigerians. We are glad that you were able to close the door to corruption, but unfortunately, the window of corruption is still wide open. Can we really say now that corruption has reduced in Nigeria? Go to the Murtala Mohammed Airport and see how immigration officers, customs, and other security agencies are intimidating passengers, including foreigners, to bribe them before traveling. Cannot continue like that. That airport is our window to the world. Mr. President, you modified the Treasury Single Account, TSA, where all revenues of government are channeled. For 2 years, 2 years, that account has not been audited. Secondly, the foreign currency component of this account has not been activated for inexplicable reasons. This means that all monies accruing from diaspora are still in banks in and outside Nigeria. This in itself opens windows for corruption. The Nigerian budget was padded and you did nothing to those involved. For example, the Director of Finance and Accounts at the Ministry of Power, Works and Housing, Ibrahim Tumsa, who was arrested recently for acquiring 86 exotic cars and other properties in Abuja. He was able to steal all that money as a result of budget padding. They prepared the budget of that ministry, and they might have connived with those that approved it. How else could he, a civil servant, acquire such assets between 2016 and 2017? Today, Abdulmim Jubre, a member of the House of Representatives, was removed by his fellow legislators for exposing the pardon saga. Till date, nothing tangible was done to address his case, just because he was a whistleblower. You're building the foreign reserve to $40 billion US, the elimination of ghost workers, increased exports in agricultural and mineral products, increase in the revenue of the Nigerian custom, construction or ongoing construction of major highways and railways, etc. They are all appreciated. But if general welfare and security are not guaranteed, the value of those projects are depleted. A hungry man is an angry man. Mr. President, Nigerians are hungry. As the Grand Commander of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you must take immediate practical and visible actions in addressing the provocative security situation in Nigeria by employing the Army, Navy, police, and all other security forces to fish out and prosecute those involved directly or indirectly in killing our people. This barbarism must be halted with swift and sustained alacrity. Those Boko Haram members that were reported to have surrendered should be used to trace their sources of supply and hideouts. They must be made to face the court of law as provided for in the Constitution of Nigeria. Since 2015, Boko Haram and their so-called herdsmen have killed a conservative estimate of about 2,000 Nigerians. And those that surrender must not escape the law or be pampered. So a set of evil people will just slaughter Nigerians, and you freely accept them in the name of amnesty and bring them back into the society under the guise of surrendering. That gesture itself is a breach of the law in every standard. What about the people they killed? What about the people they killed? So anybody can just kill people in Nigeria and you surrender. When the court granted an order for the relocation of herdsmen in Ghana, the Ghanaian security forces, they wasted no time in implementing the order. You got a court order, Mr. President, to proscribe IPOB. You could equally get a court order to proscribe the terrorist herdsmen. They are terrorists. The herdsmen are terrorists. This is a country where our motto is unity, faith, peace, and progress. But today, many Nigerians have become disenchanted with how the country is being operated. Therefore, patriotism has become obsolete. This is an awakening call to all governors in the southern, eastern, and western states of the country to seriously consider the option of breeding cattle in their various states as a way of boosting agriculture and creating employment. Must cattle come only from the north? We can breed our cattle. By the time we breed cattle in all states, there will be abundance of cattle everywhere. The prices will reduce, and the murderous menace of interstate grazing will stop. Should anybody be talking of carving colonies, carve a colony from each state, then you now give them to herdsmen to do their private businesses? Any governor in the Federal Republic of Nigeria that surrenders an inch of land as a colony for herdsmen is an enemy of the people, and he must be declared a suspect by his people. A colony that will now be used as a base for the settlement of terrorists, who will now expand and finally drive their original owners from their land. Niger Delta. Any governor for Niger Delta will give one yeye colony to any yeye herdsman, na Kolo governor. I will go treat them as Kolo. Yes. Chapter 1, Section 2, subsection 2 of the Nigerian Constitution states that Nigeria shall be a federation consisting of states and a federal capital territory. It did not state that the states should further be divided into colonies for cattle and their evil breeders. Cow grazing terrorists move about with sophisticated weapons, and nobody is searching them. But SARS is stopping honorary Nigerians. Stop and search. Why do security agencies never stop and search them? Why? If commensurate actions are not taken against the herdsmen now, I genuinely fear that the worst is yet to come, because the people cannot be silent forever. Mr. President, Nigeria is in your hands. You have to make it, or you have to mar it. The world is watching. This pain cannot continue. What is change? What is change? You came with the mantra of change. Change is when, as the Grand Commander of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you stop state governors from receiving monthly security votes. Some governors pocket like 2 billion naira monthly with nothing to show for it. What have they been able to do in securing their states against Fulani terrorists, Boko Haram, and other pockets of violence? Sadly, Mr. President, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria does not make any provision for security votes to states. It's not there in our Constitution. Security allocations were concocted during the military era, and it has been a conduit since then to siphon public money till date. The so-called security votes must be stopped immediately and used in further equipping the envisioned state police. Mr. President, please record that when Governor Nasser El-Rufai and the Speaker of the House of Representatives publicly accused each other of corruption, Yakubu Dogara asked Rufai to disclose how he spends his monthly security votes. Though El Rufai gave some explanations, yet Southern Kaduna has been a bed of human massacre in recent times. With the change matter, all other achievements will be deemed to have failed if you do not give us steady electricity before our next election. All aspects of our socio-economic life is connected to electricity, and you are aware of that. If Jonathan Goodluck had given Nigerians steady electricity during his 6 years in office, you would not have been able to win him in that 2015 presidential election. There is no mystery in the provision of electricity. I don't understand why they politicize it and make it like a big deal. Any president that could not provide steady electricity in Nigeria within 3 years has failed. What is electricity? This president will come, promise electricity, promise roads, promise water. Is that all about our politics? Morocco has launched one of the world's largest solar energy projects, costing an estimated $9 billion. The aim of the project is to create 2,000 megawatts of electricity by the year 2020. That plant will settle 38% of the country's electricity consumption. What was recovered alone from treasury looters in Nigeria since 2015 is enough to sponsor such a project. Can't we get electricity through coal? Can't we provide electricity through wind? What is happening in Nigeria? What is this electricity issue? Mr. President, the erudite chairman of the Presidential Committee Against Corruption, Professor Isse Sage, has recently and constantly raised alarm about the mind-boggling salaries and allowances of the federal legislators who earn around 30 million naira monthly. I cannot even pronounce that money. Monthly. Sage explained further that ILO, that is the International Labour Organization, the standard is that no earner of remuneration from the public office is supposed to earn more than 100 times the income of the lowest paid workers. In Nigeria, the minimum basic wage is 18,000 naira a month. Therefore, if some fellow public servants award themselves about 30 million naira a month, it means that is 1,666.6 times higher than the minimum wage. One person. So what is change? What is change? Imagine even paying 18,000 naira as minimum wage in modern Nigeria. 18,000 naira. It is laughable. That is around 45 euro. I am ashamed to tell my friends in Europe that 45 euro is the minimum monthly salary in my country, Nigeria, the giant of Africa. The so-called 18,000 naira has not even been paid or accepted to be paid by state governors. It is laughable. Change means that you should step into this kind of matters. See what you can do about this monumental salaries without fear of favor. That is the Buhari I was thinking we're voting into power. This disparity and the incarceration of the Nigerian people questions the humanitarian index of your government, and it is antithetical to the change matter. If you do not listen to your advisors, if you are not sensitive to the political worries of your wife, if you do not listen to the cries of Nigerians, then who do you listen to, Mr. President? You can see that Nigerians are complaining everywhere. They are doing videos everywhere. Don't you listen to us anymore? Change is when you make it mandatory that all your honorable ministers must have an annual target within a deadline to practically achieve projects and programs that will visibly transform Nigeria and with direct positive impact on the people. They must have a target to achieve, a goal, annually. You don't need visionless ministers appointed because they know somebody who knows somebody somewhere. We need smart goal-getters in this 21st century if Nigeria must move forward. We're in a digital age. We know that you appointed most of them because they campaigned with you during your election. But the time is up for most of them. They're not taking the country anywhere. Even the so-called Kabai in Aso Rock, you don't need most of them anymore. You don't need them anymore. If you continue like this, we don't need ministers who just enjoy the perk of office and go around looking for money to borrow for wasteful projects that will push us further into debts. And we don't talk. Change is when the favorable the current oil price, which is still favorable, can be used to give us a better standard of life and end this intermittent fuel scarcity. How can a country producing and exporting fuel be suffering from unavailability of fuel, mostly during festive periods? It's not enough that the vice president visited a filling station to crack jokes with the people. Does that solve the problem? It's cosmetic. We must be practical, with due respect to the vice president. Change is when that favorable oil price can reflect in our lives as Nigerians. Mr. President, I am waiting for a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to sponsor a bill that will make it mandatory for all the 774 local government areas in Nigeria to operate farms based on their respective highest comparative advantage. That is, every local government must operate a government-sponsored farm. If your local government is arable for cassava, invest and plant. If it is arable for yams, invest and plant. If it is good for fish farming or livestock, invest and farm. With this, we could have enough food supplies and better agricultural exports that will dramatically lift our people from hunger and poverty. A hungry man is an angry man. By the time every local government operates a farm, it will narrow down to each councillor in every ward, which means every councillor should equally manage a government-sponsored farm within their wards. Many councillors are idle. This is not difficult to achieve. Today, Fulani herdsmen, whether they call them Bororo or whatever, the herdsmen terrorists are being used to scare farmers in order to destroy their farms, destroy their farm products, so that food dependency will come only from the north. That is the game plan, and we know. Fulani herdsmen will enter into farms, go to Delta State, where I come from, go to Edo State. They burn the farms. They burn the farms, destroy the yams, rape the women, so that they will be scared to go to farm, so that they go hungry. Therefore, the food will be coming, the potatoes, the tomatoes and all that, will be coming from the north. That is the game plan. It must stop. How do you encourage people to invest in agriculture, yet terrorists are forcing the people out of their farms, and we do nothing about it? Nigerians, defend yourselves. Defend yourselves. We cannot be afraid in our land. Apologies to Chinua Achebe. If a man comes into your house and defecates on the floor, what do? You look at him? No, you take a stick and break his head. Apologies, Chinua Achebe. Things fall apart. Mr. President, we Nigerians demand that we should have a progress report of how much money was recovered from looters and how the money is injected into the building of infrastructure. We just hear of money missing, money found, money at Ikoyi, money at the airport. Mr. President, the continued external borrowing conflicts with your recovery efforts. The corruption effort is now losing steam, because no looter has been jailed to date. But poor Nigerians who steal yams and mobile phones are sent to congested prisons on a daily basis. Change is when you allow those that collected mobilization fee for failed projects to continue working as free persons? No. For example, in the Nation's newspaper of 5th May 2017, it was reported that Honorable Minister Rotimi Amechi said that a contractor collected a mobilization fee of 37 billion naira for the dredging of River Niger, and they abandoned the project. What happened thereafter? Till now, nothing. Which developed country will accept that? Mr. President, recently Senator Dino Melaye, during a sitting in the Senate, claimed that over 2 trillion naira unremitted fund is lying unused at the Central Bank of Nigeria. Where are these monies in these times of national deprivation and insecurity? Where are these monies? We are looking for money to borrow, and we have money lying fallow. Your Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Buratai, publicly said, as published in the Vanguard newspaper of 2nd February 2018, that the current deficiencies in the army is caused by the lack of funds. Funds with over 2 trillion lying at CBN, and you are seeking $1 billion to fight Boko Haram. Mr. President, kindly recall that in early 2016, when Prince Tony Momo, one of the founding members of APC, was defending your administration, he confidently said, and I quote, "Stone us if within 2 years the current government fails to reverse the situation," unquote. It is already 2018. 2 years have passed. We have suffered too long as a people. We have endured too much. No Nigerian own Nigeria more than Nigerians. Apart from technology, show me a country as blessed in this world in terms of natural resources and human capital like Nigeria. None. Nigerians have endured through thick and thin. We have endured all types of misrule, from the military to the civilian regime. We cannot continue like this. Why can't our leaders ever get it right? What is the big deal? People that cannot change the system, why are they so desperate to enter into political offices? They come to Europe, they see everything. What is the problem with our leaders? What is the problem? What is the mystery in leadership? That they cannot achieve practical results. Mr. President, you are in office, but you are not in power. When the campaign for the presidency begins in Nigeria, the European Coalition for Security and Democracy in Nigeria will do 3 things. Now that I am the chief coordinator, you will see a different type of campaign from the international front. I promise you this. Firstly, we shall excrete the presidential candidates and vigorously promote the best of them without recourse to political party, religion, security, or ethnicities. The insecurity, the ethnicity you see today in Nigeria, they are being sponsored by the same politicians. They divide us with those things that are supposed to unite us. Secondly, we shall embark on huge mobilization and awareness raising towards the European Union, the World Bank, and other donor agencies, so that they could review and assess whether their aids and financial support to Nigeria are being diverted towards security recklessness and other conscious disenfranchisement of Nigerians from the democratization process. Finally, our campaigns will investigate whether the loans and other financial aids have been geared towards empowering the so-called herdsmen as loans to invest in their cattle business. This is just as timely as the World Bank recently scored Nigeria, the Nigerian agri-subsector very low recently. So we are going to check how these funds are being used. If they are just directed at buying cattle, we can no longer be afraid to sacrifice for our country, Nigeria. The time has come. It is no longer news that the problem with Nigeria is not just about inept leadership. It is more about the long silence of Nigerians. We have been too quiet. We have been too silenced over what we have. Our commonwealth have been spirited away by a few, and we keep keeping quiet. We just keep quiet all the time. This must stop. It must stop. Years after the voters' card reading machine was introduced, we have heard many cases of malfunctioning. We know that these machines are not malfunctioning, yet the government continues to pump billions of naira into INEC. Common election we cannot organize. Nigerians cannot vote, even in local government elections. A governor just rigs all the local government elections, and their political party wins and sweep elections. When Nigerians cannot even vote, and we're talking about democracy, the system must stop mocking us. We know that the malfunctioning or the so-called malfunctioning of the card reader are being orchestrated by the political elites at the detriment of the masses. We Nigerians have made enough sacrifices, and we cannot continue in this political schizophrenia and oppression by the political class that has left us poorer and insecure than our yesteryears. Mr. President, you may win the election again. You may win the election again. But if you continue like this, the way you are going now, this snail speed, it will millipede into sadness if it continues like this. You may end up in history as one of our failed leaders if this slow pace of development goes like this. If this slow response to security issues goes like this. The annoyance of Nigerians now concerning the killing is enough to even vote you out of office. I have my respect for you, Mr. President. Most of my friends that saw my campaigns during your election, I'm sure that by the time they watch me now, they'll be saying, Fred, we told you. Mr. President, I still believe you can do something. You can still do it. You can still do it, Mr. President. You cannot go into history as a failed leader. Sadly, because of the huge confidence and hope that brought you into power, Nigerians repose so much confidence in you. Your failure will be a huge and very painful disappointment. And it will go a long way to reveal that the tears you shed in 2011 was crocodile tears. You may decide to or not to listen to us, but as a retired military officer, you might have read the book by Sun Tzu, the one titled The Art of War, in which it says that even the finest sword plunged into salt water will eventually rust. President Buhari, is this all you can do? Matthew 11, verse 3. Are you the expected one, or shall we look for someone else? We use this medium to congratulate the Social Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, for increasing transparency, accountability, and the protection of the economic and social rights of Nigerians. We see what you are doing. We really appreciate you. We hope that the Nigerian Labour Congress will do more by waking up to its full responsibilities to Nigerians. Nigerian Labour Congress, you are the conscience of the country. You have a lot to do. Don't go into politics. Don't politicize the NLC. Nigerians need you now like never before. For those of you that have ruled and looted Nigeria dry, when you were president. But you now believe that you are now the conscience of Nigeria. Therefore, you can now dictate or suggest who should contest or not to contest to be president of Nigeria. We shall make a subsequent statement addressed specifically to you, because you contributed to putting Nigeria where it is now. You contributed to it. I will not close my statements by saying, God bless Nigeria, as we usually do, because God has already blessed Nigeria. Rather, I will ask that God should give us wisdom. Amen.